Imagine standing at the edge of a vast open field at dawn. The world around you is silent, waiting, almost expectant. There is nothing holding you back. No walls, no chains, no barriers, just endless possibility stretching out in every direction. And yet, you don't move. Not because you can't, but because you don't know where to go. Most people live their entire lives in that silent field, full of potential, full of talent, full of dreams, but stuck in place. Not because they are incapable, but because they have no plan. And without a plan, progress is never more than a wish, a hope, a thought that flickers but never becomes fire. This audiobook is the map that turns that empty field into a direction, a destination, a mission. Today, you will step out of stillness and into strategy. Today, you will learn the truth that changes everything. If you want progress, you must create a plan, not someday, not when you feel ready. Now, this is your turning point. Welcome to No Plan, No Progress. Chapter 1. When life stops moving. Listen closely, because what I'm about to say is something most people feel, but almost no one admits. There comes a moment in every life when you look around and realize nothing is actually moving. The world keeps spinning. Days keep passing. Time keeps slipping forward. But you feel stuck in the same place, thinking the same thoughts, repeating the same patterns, holding on to the same dreams you keep promising you'll begin someday. It's a strange kind of stillness, not peaceful, but heavy. A stillness that hums beneath your chest, like an unanswered question. How did I get here? And why does nothing seem to change? Imagine standing at a crossroads where every path is foggy, every direction uncertain, and every step feels like walking in sand. You're surrounded by possibility, yet paralyzed by hesitation. You feel the potential inside you, alive, restless, almost impatient, yet it has nowhere to go. You can sense a bigger life tugging at you from the edges of your awareness, whispering, "There's more for you than this," but it feels just out of reach, almost unreal. This is where our journey begins, not in a moment of triumph, but in the honest, raw truth of being stuck, in that uncomfortable silence between the life you are living and the life you know you're capable of living. Because the first step toward change is not confidence, it's not motivation, it's awareness. Awareness that you've been drifting, waiting, hoping something or someone would pull you forward. But nothing does, and deep down, you already know why. Progress doesn't come from pressure, luck, talent, or circumstance. Progress comes from intention, but intention cannot exist without direction, and direction cannot exist without a plan. This is the foundation of everything you're about to hear. The truth most people avoid, because it forces them to look directly at their life and ask a difficult question. What am I actually working toward? Not what you're dreaming about, not what you wish would happen, not what you admire in others, but what you've clearly defined, written, shaped, and committed yourself to. For most people, that answer is silence. Not because they lack ambition, but because they've never been taught the power of clarity. They chase feelings instead of structure. They wait for a spark instead of building a fire. They live life reacting, not creating. And so they remain in that quiet, heavy stillness, full of potential, but starved of direction. But here's the moment everything begins to shift for you. Right here, right now. Because by simply listening, you've already shown something important. You're ready to step out of autopilot. You're ready to question the patterns that have kept you repeating the same year over and over. You're ready to face the truth that nothing changes until you choose the direction. This chapter is the foundation of your transformation, not because it gives you answers, but because it asks you to become aware, deeply aware of the quiet habits that shape your life without you even notice. Ask yourself, when was the last time you woke up with a clear mission for the day? When was the last time you planned your week with intention instead of hope? When was the last time you decided what your next chapter would look like instead of waiting for life to decide for you? If you feel a tightness in your chest hearing these questions, good. That feeling is not guilt or pressure. It's recognition. It's the part of you that knows you've been living beneath your potential, surviving instead of building, responding instead of designing. We often think a lack of progress means we're lazy, unmotivated, or incapable, but most of the time it simply means we've been moving without aim. Effort without direction is exhaustion, not progress. Energy without structure is chaos, not growth. Think of a ship at sea, with no map, no coordinates, no chosen destination. That ship will drift endlessly, even with full sails and strong winds. It may move, but it will never arrive. And the saddest part, most people live their entire lives that way. But not you. Not anymore. Because this first chapter is your awakening. The moment you step out of passive motion and into conscious intention. The moment you finally understand that a better life doesn't begin with motivation. It begins with a plan. A plan gives your energy a home. A plan gives your effort a purpose. A plan gives your days structure, your decisions, clarity, and your actions, meaning. A plan turns someday into today. It turns I wish into I will. It turns I hope into I'm working on it. This is the emotional heartbeat of this entire audiobook. No plan means no progress, but with a plan everything changes. Before we build anything practical, before goals, strategies, systems, or habits, we begin with the inner shift, the recognition that you are not stuck because you are weak. You are stuck because you have never been given the tools to move forward intentionally. And once you gain those tools, once you understand how to build direction from the inside out, your life cannot stay the same. So take a breath. Let this truth sink in. Let it soften the frustration, dissolve the confusion, and lift the heaviness you've been carrying. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not lost. You are simply not shown the path. And now you are finally beginning to see it. This is only the beginning, the first step into a journey that will reshape the way you approach your goals, your time, your focus, and your life itself. In the next chapter, we go deeper. We'll explore why planning feels so difficult, why we resist it, and what hidden fears keep us drifting instead of directing our lives with clarity. Because once you understand your resistance, you gain the power to overcome it, and that is where real transformation begins. Chapter 2. The hidden reasons we avoid making a plan. There's a moment in life when you look at the path ahead and feel something strange rising in your chest. Not fear of failure, but fear of clarity, because clarity demands something from you, and in a world where drifting feels easier than deciding, clarity can feel like a confrontation you'd rather avoid. Let me take you into that moment. Imagine yourself standing before a blank page, a page that represents your future. It's pure, empty, untouched, and all it needs is your decision. One line, one direction, one commitment. But your hand hesitates, not because you lack ideas, but because you suddenly feel the weight of writing the first word. It's strange, isn't it, how the blank page of your future can feel heavier than the burdens you already carry. This hesitation isn't laziness. It's not a lack of ambition. It's something far deeper, something almost invisible, yet powerful enough to hold your entire life in place. That is what this chapter is about. The hidden silent fears that make planning feel overwhelming. The internal resistance that convinces you to delay, avoid, or escape the responsibility of choosing a direction. Because before you build a plan, you must understand why you've avoided one for so long. Most people think the reason they don't plan is because they don't know where to start. But that's not the truth. The real reason lives much deeper in the heart. One of the strongest fears is the fear of choosing wrong. The fear that if you commit to one path, you might miss out on another. So you try to keep every door open, every dream, every possibility, every option. But when every door is open, you walk through none of them. You stand in the hallway of life, surrounded by opportunity, but unable to step forward. Another hidden fear is the fear of responsibility, because the moment you create a plan, you create expectations, and expectations invite accountability. When you make a plan, you're declaring silently, I am responsible for what happens next. And for many people, that level of ownership feels terrifying. You can no longer blame luck or timing, or other people, or circumstances. A plan exposes the truth. Your life is shaped more by your direction than your conditions. Then there is the fear of seeing yourself clearly, because planning forces you to confront the gap between who you are and who you want to be. It requires honesty, sometimes brutally honest reflection. It makes you look at the areas you've ignored, the habits you've avoided, the dreams you haven't nurtured. And facing yourself fully can feel like standing under a bright light with nowhere to hide. But there's another fear, one people almost never talk about, the fear of success. It sounds strange, doesn't it? Why would anyone fear succeeding? But success brings change, and change brings pressure. When you rise, expectations rise with you. People notice, people watch, people rely on you, and something inside you whispers, what if I can't maintain it? So you stay in the comfort of unpredictability, where nothing is expected, and nothing is at risk. These fears don't shout, they whisper, they hide beneath the surface. They disguise themselves as procrastination, indecision, or perfectionism. They create a fog around your path, making the idea of planning feel like trying to draw a map in the dark. But here's the truth you need to hear. Planning isn't scary because it's difficult. Planning is scary because it forces your potential to become real. It turns possibility into responsibility. It turns dreams into work. It turns desire into discipline. And even though this reality feels overwhelming, it is also the beginning of liberation. Because once you understand your resistance, you take away its power. You begin to see that your fears aren't obstacles, they're signals. Signals telling you where you need clarity, courage, and compassion for yourself. Let's make this personal for a moment. Think about something in your life you've been wanting to change, something you've been delaying, something you think about often but never define clearly. Maybe it's your health, maybe it's your career, maybe it's a dream you buried under practical reason, maybe it's a version of yourself you haven't met yet, but long for deeply. Ask yourself, why haven't you planned it? Not in theory, not in imagination, but in real structured detail. You might feel a little uncomfortable answering that, and that's good. That discomfort is the doorway to your breakthrough. Every avoided plan has a story attached to it, a belief, a fear, a memory, a doubt you carry quietly, a voice that tells you, if you don't plan it, you can't fail at it. But here's something powerful. Avoiding failure has never built a meaningful life for anyone. Avoiding clarity has never created progress. Avoiding responsibility has never led to freedom. You're listening to this because a part of you is ready to stop avoiding. A part of you wants to understand the resistance, so you can rise above it. A part of you is tired of drifting, tired of explaining, tired of waiting for the right moment that never arrives. And deep down you know the truth. The moment is here. The shift is now. The old way of living is no longer enough. You don't need perfection to begin. You don't need certainty to take the first step. You don't need confidence to choose a direction. What you need is awareness. And that's exactly what this chapter offers. A clear, compassionate understanding of why you've been holding yourself back. In Chapter 3, we will take everything you've uncovered about your resistance and turn it into clarity. We will explore the moment your life truly begins to change, the moment you choose a destination with intention and honesty. Because once you know where you're going, the fog begins to lift, the fears lose their grip, and the path forward finally reveals itself. Chapter 3. Voiceover Script. There is a moment in every person's life when the world suddenly becomes quiet. Not because the noise has stopped, but because your soul finally whispers something louder than everything around you. It feels like a faint vibration in the chest, a soft nudge in the mind, a truth rising from a place you didn't know existed. And in that moment, you realize something powerful. You've been living more outside yourself than within. You can sense it now, can't you? That pull, that awareness, that subtle awakening that tells you there's more for you than the life you've been settling for. This chapter begins in that exact space, the threshold between who you've been and who you're becoming. It is the moment when the mirror stops reflecting your past and starts revealing your potential. And it's here, right here, where you start to understand the true weight of your choices and the even greater weight of your possibilities. You see, change doesn't begin with a decision. It begins with a realization that the person you are today is the result of countless small permissions you've given to the world. Permission to distract you, permission to define you, permission to limit you, permission to convince you that you are fine when your spirit knows you are meant for far more. But something inside you has started to wake up. That's why you're here. That's why you're listening. That's why this chapter matters. This isn't a chapter about goals or habits or strategies. This is the chapter where you reclaim ownership of your inner world, where you begin to understand the force that shapes everything else, your inner alignment. Because nothing in your life can rise higher than your inner state, and nothing in your life will change until the person within you changes first. Imagine standing in a wide open field at sunrise. The air is still, untouched. The entire horizon glows with possibility. And as the first light hits your face, you feel something you've forgotten. That you were born with a direction, a hunger, a purpose carved into your very being. Before the world told you to be realistic, before fear taught you its language, before responsibility hardened your imagination, that moment, that feeling, is not gone. It's just buried under years of noise. Today, we uncover it. Every human being carries a hidden current, an invisible inner direction that guides them toward the life they are meant to live. But most people never learn how to listen to it. They rush, they react, they repeat the same patterns, never realizing that the very clarity they seek is already within them, waiting to be acknowledged. This chapter is your invitation to return to that inner current, to step away from the chaos long enough to hear your own truth again. Because when you lose connection with yourself, everything becomes heavier. Decisions feel confusing, opportunities feel overwhelming. Life feels like something happening to you instead of something unfolding through you. But when you reconnect, when you learn to listen to the quiet intelligence inside your own mind, the world begins to organize itself around your clarity. Doors appear where walls once stood. Energy rises where exhaustion lived. Purpose sharpens where doubt controlled you. This is the foundation of personal transformation. You cannot lead your life until you can hear your life. You cannot elevate your path until you elevate your inner world. You cannot receive more until you become more. Internally, quietly, intentionally. So let me ask you something personal. When was the last time you paused long enough to notice your own thoughts, not judge them, not run from them, Just notice them like clouds drifting through a sky that was always yours. Most people fear that moment of stillness. They fear what they might discover. But clarity is not something you search for. Clarity is what rises when all the noise finally settles. And right now, in this very chapter, you are learning how to let it rise, because there comes a time when you must stop running from yourself and start listening to yourself. A time when your excuses lose their power. A time when your distractions lose their shine. A time when your old patterns can no longer survive the person you're becoming. That time is here. You are not meant to drift through life, reacting to whatever happens next. You are meant to live with intention, with a mind that is clear, a heart that is steady, and a spirit that is awake. And this chapter marks the moment you start building that inner foundation. You'll begin to recognize the difference between your true voice and the noise around you. You'll start hearing the quiet strength beneath your fears. You'll feel the weight of your life shifting from chaos to clarity, from survival to direction, from confusion to purpose. By the end of this chapter, you will understand something essential. The world will not slow down for you, but you can slow down within yourself. And when you do, you gain a power that most people never experience. The power to choose your life with intention, instead of living it by accident. Because transformation isn't loud. It isn't dramatic. It doesn't announce itself with fireworks or fanfare. Transformation begins in the quiet, the moment you decide that your inner world deserves your attention. And when you honor that inner world, you unlock the ability to shape your outer world. This is the foundation. This is the starting point. This is the shift that makes everything else possible. As you move forward, remember, the greatest changes in your life will always begin inside you, long before the world ever sees them. And now, with this realization settling gently into your awareness, you're ready for what comes next. Because the journey ahead is not about rushing forward, it's about rising inward. Let's step into the next chapter together, where we'll explore the deeper layers of your becoming and uncover the strength that has been waiting for you all along. There comes a moment in every journey when you can no longer ignore the truth rising inside you, the truth that something in your life must shift. Not tomorrow, not someday, but now. It feels like standing on the edge of a quiet cliff right before dawn, the darkness behind you, the horizon glowing faintly ahead. You can't see the full path yet, but you can feel it calling you, almost whispering. This is where everything changes. That's where chapter 4 begins, in the space between who you were and who you refuse to remain. Because once you wake up to your own inner clarity, something unexpected happens. You start noticing all the places in your life where you've been out of alignment. You see the habits that drain you, the commitments that no longer fit you, the roles you've outgrown but kept playing because they were familiar. And it can feel unsettling, even a little uncomfortable, to realize that the life you built may not match the life you truly want to live. But discomfort is not a sign that something is wrong. Discomfort is a sign that something within you is finally ready to evolve. In this chapter, we step into the heart of that evolution, not the loud, dramatic kind, but the quiet transformation that begins when you choose honesty over habit. Because once you begin hearing your own inner truth, you can no longer pretend not to know it. You can no longer shrink yourself to fit a life that was never meant to contain you. You can no longer stay where your spirit can't breathe. This chapter is about recognizing the subtle misalignments that have been shaping your decisions. The ways you've said yes when your heart meant no. The times you held back your voice to keep the peace. The moments you dimmed your own light so others could feel comfortable in theirs. It's about the quiet courage required to look at your life with unfiltered honesty and admit what needs to change. And here's the truth most people never understand. Real change begins long before you take the first step. Real change begins the moment you see yourself clearly. So let's explore that clarity together. Imagine your life as a house built over many years. Each room represents a season, a decision, a belief you once held, and for a long time, that house felt like home. But suddenly, you walk into a room you haven't visited in years, and you feel it. The air is stale. The walls don't match the person you are now. Something inside you whispers, "This room needs light. This room needs space. This room needs you to rebuild it." That room is any part of your life that you've been avoiding. Often, the most important transformations start with small, honest observations. The relationship that no longer nurtures you, the routine that keeps you stagnant, the belief that once protected you but now limits you. We outgrow things quietly, and often we realize it only when we finally allow ourselves to slow down and see. In this chapter, I invite you to notice the spaces where you've been living on autopilot. Notice the conversations that leave you empty. Notice the tasks that drain your energy. Notice the patterns that repeat themselves, not because they are right for you, but because they are familiar. Awareness is the beginning. Honesty is the turning point. And once honesty enters your life, something remarkable begins to happen. You start reclaiming pieces of yourself you never meant to lose. Your confidence, your intuition, your boundaries, your voice, your inner authority, the one you were born with but slowly, quietly handed away. And with each piece you reclaim, you feel your energy returning. Your vision sharpens. Your choices become intentional. Your life begins to reflect the real you, not the version of you shaped by pressure, expectation, or fear. This chapter is about choosing alignment, even when it asks you to release what no longer serves you, even when it challenges your comfort, even when it requires you to step into the unknown with nothing but your inner truth to guide you. Because the unknown is not empty. The unknown is where possibility lives. It's where the deeper part of your purpose begins to breathe. And you don't have to make dramatic decisions to honor that alignment. Sometimes the most powerful shifts begin with a single sentence spoken to yourself. "I am not going to betray myself anymore." From that moment, the world around you quietly rearranges. Conversations change, priorities shift, new pathways appear. Not because life suddenly becomes easier, but because you are no longer walking against yourself. And this is the essence of Chapter 4. To understand that your life expands or contracts at the rate of your self-honesty. When you ignore your inner truth, everything feels heavier. But when you honor it, truly honor it, you step into a flow that feels like alignment, clarity, peace, and inner strength woven together. And right now you are standing at the edge of that shift. You're not being asked to leap. You're simply being asked to see, to recognize what no longer resonates with the person you're becoming. Because in the next chapter we will go deeper. We will explore how to rebuild your life from this new place of honesty and alignment. We will walk into the spaces within you that are ready to grow, expand, and rise. But for now, let this truth settle gently into your awareness. Your life will always reflect the parts of yourself you choose to honor. And the moment you begin honoring yourself, everything else begins to change. Let's continue this journey together, into the next chapter, where the real rebuilding begins. There comes a moment in every transformation when the world around you begins to feel strangely quiet. Not silent in a lonely way, but quiet in a revealing way, as if life itself is pausing, waiting for you to finally hear what you've been too distracted to notice. It's the kind of quiet that arrives after a storm, when the wind settles and the sky clears just enough for you to see what survived, what changed, and what was never meant to stay. Chapter 5 begins in that quiet, because after you admit what no longer aligns with you, something profound emerges. you are left standing with the truth of who you are and the responsibility of deciding who you will become next. This is the chapter where clarity meets action, where inner truth demands expression, where your life stops being something that happens to you and starts becoming something you shape with intention. And here's the part many people never understand. Transformation isn't only about releasing what doesn't belong, it's also about consciously choosing what you want to invite into your life next. Clarity without action becomes another form of hesitation, and action without clarity becomes another form of chaos. But when clarity and action meet, that's where personal power is born. In this chapter, we explore the subtle but life-changing art of building your life with intention, piece by piece, decision by decision, moment by moment. Not chasing a future version of yourself, not trying to become someone else's idea of successful or worthy, but choosing every single day to live in a way that honors your inner truth. And to do that, you must understand something essential. Your life is being built right now, not someday, not later, not when conditions improve. Right now, with every choice you make, every boundary you set, every step you take toward or away from what matters, you are shaping your life in real time. The question is, are you shaping it consciously or unconsciously? Are you choosing your habits or repeating them without thinking? Are you choosing your relationships or settling into them because they're familiar? Are you choosing your self-talk or allowing old narratives to run the show? Everything in your life is either the result of intention or the result of default. In this chapter, you begin shifting from default to design. Imagine standing in an open field with a blank canvas stretched in front of you. You hold the brush, you hold the colors, you decide the shapes, the depth, the shadows, the light. You decide what belongs and what doesn't. That field is your life right now, open, unpainted, full of possibility. But most people never pick up the brush. They let others paint their lives for them. Parents, society, expectations, past experiences, fears they never question. And then years later, they look at the canvas and wonder why it doesn't feel like home. This chapter is your reminder that you can take the brush back. Not aggressively, not with pressure, but with intention. Because building a new life doesn't require dramatic leaps or loud declarations. It begins with a quiet but firm decision inside you. I am going to live on purpose. And once you make that decision, your behavior shifts in ways that may seem small, but hold tremendous power. You start choosing people who respect your boundary. You start investing time into what nourishes your spirit. You start saying yes to opportunities that reflect who you want to become, not who you used to be. And just as importantly, you start saying no with clarity and without guilt. In this chapter, I want you to understand something crucial. Every aligned life is built on a foundation of intentional choices, not perfect choices, not always confident choices, but honest, aligned, deliberate choices. Choices that reflect the person you're becoming, not the person you were trying to outgrow. This is where transformation becomes sustainable, not because life gets easier, but because you stop abandoning yourself. You stop fighting your own soul. You stop burying your truth under obligations, fear, or outdated roles. You begin living your life from the inside out, and as this inner shift begins, you'll notice something subtle but powerful. Life starts responding to your decisions. New opportunities appear. New people arrive. New ideas awaken. Not because of luck, but because your energy, your clarity, your intention draws them in. You are becoming a magnet for what matches your inner truth. And that truth becomes your compass as you walk forward. The purpose of this chapter is to help you understand that your transformation is not a single moment. It is a daily practice. It's built in conversations, decisions, routines, boundaries, and tiny shifts that accumulate until one day you look in the mirror and realize you didn't just change your life. You rebuilt yourself, and that rebuilding begins right here, in the space between clarity and action, in the space where your inner truth becomes your outer choices, in the space where your life starts matching your soul. As we move into the next chapter, we will go deeper into the practice of living with intention, not just understanding it, but embodying it, not just building a life that looks good on the outside, but one that feels aligned, steady, and meaningful on the inside. Because your journey isn't just about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you were always meant to be. And Chapter 6 will take you there into the heart of intentional living, where every step becomes a declaration of your truth. Let's take that step together. There is a moment in every journey when the path ahead stops being theory and becomes responsibility. A moment when the excuses fade, the doubts quiet down, and you can finally hear the sound of your own footsteps, steady, real, undeniable. That moment is now, because Chapter 6 begins where intention transforms into embodiment, where the life you want stops being a distant idea and starts becoming a way of living. Picture this. You wake up one morning, and for the first time in a long time, something feels different. Not dramatic, not loud, but subtly powerful, as if the world shifted half an inch overnight. The air feels clearer, the choices in front of you feel sharper, and deep inside there's a small but unmistakable voice saying, "Live like you mean it today." This chapter is about that voice, the inner call to step into your life with presence, intention, and depth. Not rushing, not performing, not pretending, but showing up with all of you, fully awake, fully grounded, fully alive. Because intention is not just a plan, it's a posture, a way of meeting the world with alignment instead of autopilot. Think of the most grounded people you've ever met, the ones who speak with quiet conviction, who move with purpose, who seem to know exactly who they are, even in chaotic moments. They're not perfect, they're not superhuman, but they have mastered something most people overlook. They live from the inside out. They don't chase validation. They don't contort themselves to fit other people's expectations. They don't drift into decisions that contradict their value. Instead, they move through life with intention, not rushed, not reactive, but deliberate. They know what matters to them. They know what drains them. They know where they're going internally, even when the external path is still revealing itself. This chapter is your invitation to join them, to live with that kind of quiet strength, to step into a life where your decisions echo your truth. But let's be honest, living with intention is not easy in a world that constantly pulls you away from yourself. Notifications demand your attention. People tug at your energy. Old habits whisper familiar promises. And before you know it, the day ends, and you can't quite remember where your time actually went. This isn't a personal failure, it's a modern reality. But intentional living begins the moment you decide, "I will no longer give my days away without asking if they belong to me." One of the most empowering shifts you can make is becoming aware of the invisible choices you make every day. How you speak to yourself, how you respond to pressure, how you handle discomfort, how you prioritize your time, how you show up for your goals even when the excitement wears off. Intentional living asks you to pause, to breathe, to observe your own patterns with honesty instead of judgment. Because you cannot change what you are unwilling to see. And once you begin to see, you begin to choose differently. You choose conversations that uplift you instead of drain you. You choose routines that align with your growth instead of your comfort. You choose actions that reflect your future instead of your past. You choose self-respect over people-pleasing. You choose alignment over approval. Every intentional choice becomes a brick in the foundation of the life you're building, And here's the truth you must remember. The life you want is built long before it is lived. It is built in disciplines that no one applauds. It is built in boundaries that protect your peace. It is built in the courage to disappoint others rather than betray yourself. It is built in moments when no one is watching, especially then. This chapter is not about perfection. It's not about rigid control or unrealistic expectations. It's about presence, consistency, honesty, awareness. It's about being awake to your choices instead of sleepwalking through your days. Living intentionally means you stop moving through life by accident. Instead, you move with clarity, even when the path isn't fully mapped. Because when your inner compass is aligned, the steps you take, even the uncertain ones, lead somewhere meaningful. And something beautiful happens when you commit to this way of living. Life begins to rise up to meet you. You attract opportunities that match your direction. You meet people who resonate with your value. You feel a growing sense of self-trust, the kind that can't be shaken by external noise. You begin to experience a grounded confidence that isn't loud but deeply felt. In this chapter, I want you to internalize one powerful truth. You do not need a perfect plan to live intentionally. You simply need a clear direction and the willingness to honor it in your daily actions. And once you begin taking those aligned steps, a quiet miracle unfolds. Your life starts to feel like it belongs to you again. As we transition into the next chapter, we will explore how intentional living becomes a long-term practice, not a burst of motivation, but a way of being, a way of showing up, day after day, with purpose and presence, a way of building a life that doesn't just look successful, but feels meaningful. Because the deepest transformations aren't loud. They don't announce themselves. They begin quietly, with one intentional step, and then another, and then another. Chapter 7 will take you into the heart of that consistency, the daily devotion that turns intention into identity. Let's walk there together. There comes a moment in every journey when the world around you grows strangely quiet, so quiet that you can finally hear the truth you've been avoiding. Maybe you felt that moment before, the uneasy stillness after a disappointment, or the heavy breath you take before admitting something difficult to yourself. It's in these rare pauses, in these silent confrontations with your own reality, that the next chapter of your life begins to form. Not in noise, not in motion, but in the raw honesty you can no longer outrun. And right now, as you listen, you might feel a similar whisper rising inside you, a quiet knowing that something in your life is asking for attention, something subtle yet powerful, a shift, a realization, a calling that refuses to stay hidden anymore. This is where transformation begins, not by forcing your way forward, but by facing what stands in your way. Chapter 7 invites you into that inner space, the space we often avoid because it doesn't flatter us, doesn't comfort us, doesn't reassure us. Instead, it challenges us. It holds a mirror up and asks, are you being truthful with yourselves? And as uncomfortable as that question may feel, it is the doorway to the clarity you've been searching for. Because here is a truth most people never learn. Life doesn't fall apart because of one big mistake. It weakens quietly, slowly, through the things we tolerate, the excuses we repeat, the promises we break to ourselves, the small betrayals we whisper in the dark. You don't lose your way overnight. You drift, an inch at a time. And before you realize it, you're miles from the life you meant to live. This chapter is about that drift, and more importantly, it's about the moment you choose to stop drifting. Think back to a time when you convinced yourself something didn't really matter, even though it did. Maybe it was skipping the effort you promised you'd give. Maybe it was pretending you were fine when you weren't. Maybe it was telling yourself you'd change tomorrow, even though tomorrow always arrived empty. We all have those moments. They don't make you weak, they make you human, but what defines you is whether you stay there or rise from there. True progress begins the moment you stop negotiating with your own potential, when you stop accepting half effort, when you stop pretending that the smallest choices don't shape the biggest outcomes, when you stop lying to yourself about what you can't, won't, or aren't ready to do. Honesty with yourself is the foundation of a powerful life. Not the kind of honesty you share with others, but the kind that lives in the privacy of your own mind. The honesty that no one applauds, no one praises, and no one even sees. That's the honesty that changes everything. Because when you're finally honest with yourself, you gain access to a truth that liberates you. You are not stuck. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are simply at a crossroads between who you've been and who you choose to become next. Pause for a moment and let that sink in. You are choosing, even when it doesn't feel like it. You are choosing every day, every thought, every action or inaction. The life you want isn't built in one grand moment of courage. It's built through the accumulated weight of your daily honesty. Ask yourself, where have I been avoiding the truth? Not to judge yourself, not to shame yourself, but to reclaim control. Maybe you've been telling yourself you don't have time, when the truth is that fear has been steering your decision. Maybe you've been saying you're trying your best, when deep down you know you've been holding back. Maybe you've been waiting for the right moment, when deep down you know the right moment has been waiting for you. There's a freedom that comes when you stop hiding from yourself, a lightness, a sense of power returning to your hands. Suddenly, you're not fighting ghosts anymore. You're facing the real barriers, the real patterns, the real habits that have kept you anchored in place. And once you can see them clearly, you can finally begin to break them. Honesty is not harsh. Honesty is not cruel. Honesty is clarity, and clarity is the foundation of growth. When you finally tell yourself the truth, you give yourself permission to change. You release the weight of pretend. You create room for something authentic to take root, something aligned, purposeful and strong. You stop building your life on fragile ground and start building it on a foundation that can withstand anything. In this chapter, you are invited to return to yourself, not the version the world sees, but the version that exists beneath your excuses, beneath your fears, and beneath your carefully crafted story. You are invited to meet the truest part of you, the part that knows what you are capable of, even when you've forgotten. And once you meet that part, everything else becomes clear. Before we move forward, I want you to hold one thought close. Every transformation begins with truth, not motivation, not inspiration, not the push to do more, but the courage to be real with yourself. This chapter is the moment you reclaim that courage. And as we step into the next chapter, we will take that newfound honesty and shape it into something even more powerful. Clarity about your direction, your purpose, and the life you are ready to create. Because now that you've stopped drifting, it's time to start steering. Let's turn the page. There is a moment in every person's life when they stand at the edge of a truth they can no longer ignore. It doesn't arrive with a warning. It doesn't wait for the perfect time. It slips in quietly, like a shift in the wind, and suddenly you realize the life you've been living is too small for the person you're becoming. It's a moment that feels both terrifying and electrifying, like stepping into a room where the air itself seems charged with possibility. Maybe you've felt it before, a sudden tightening in your chest, a whisper in your mind, a sense that you were meant to rise a little higher, stretch a little further, expect a little more from yourself and from your life. But instead of moving forward, you hesitated, not because you lacked desire, but because transformation requires something most people never learn to master: the courage to let go of who you were. This chapter is about that threshold, the delicate, powerful space between who you've been and who you are ready to become. It is the bridge between old identity and new purpose, a bridge only crossed by those willing to release the familiar, even when the familiar feels safe. Because the truth is this: growth doesn't always come from adding more to your life, more goals, more plans, more effort. Sometimes the first and most necessary step is subtraction. Letting go, clearing space, releasing the weight of what no longer aligns with the direction of your heart. Think of a tree in winter. To the untrained eye, it looks bare, almost lifeless. But what you're seeing is preparation. The shedding of leaves isn't weakness, it's wisdom. The tree doesn't hold on to what has already lived its season. It makes room for what's coming next. Humans, however, cling. We cling to routines that drain us, relationships that shrink us, habits that sabotage us, and identities that no longer fit. Not because we want to stay where we are, but because letting go feels like losing a part of ourselves. But here is the paradox of growth. What feels like loss at first is often liberation. There are moments when life whispers, "This version of you has gone as far as it can. It's time for a new chapter." And yet, we cling to old stories, old wounds, old limitations, because at least they're familiar. But familiarity has never been the same as purpose. Comfort has never been the same as fulfillment. The core idea of this chapter is simple, but life-altering. You cannot step into your next level while holding hands with your old self. To rise, you must release. Release the patterns that keep you stuck. Release the beliefs that keep you small. Release the expectations that are not yours to carry. And perhaps hardest of all, release the version of you that survived, so a new version of you can finally live. Consider this: every time you outgrow something, life becomes uncomfortable. Not because you're failing, but because you're expanding. The friction you feel is not a sign to retreat. It's a sign that the ground beneath you is shifting to make room for your next evolution. Change doesn't begin with action, it begins with identity. With the moment you stop asking, "What should I do?" and start asking, "Who am I becoming?" When you shift your identity, your decisions naturally follow. Your habits naturally evolve. Your boundaries naturally strengthen. Your energy naturally rises. Because you're no longer trying to force change, you're becoming the change. Letting go isn't a single moment. It is a practice, a mindset, a gentle but steady willingness to stop carrying what no longer grows you. Sometimes it's a belief you inherited. Sometimes it's a fear you've repeated so often it feels like truth. Sometimes it's a story you began telling yourself years ago, one that never belonged to the person you are now. You are not defined by the roles you once played. You are not limited by the mistakes you've made. And you are not obligated to stay loyal to a past that does not honor your future. Growth requires a kind of honesty that feels like standing in the open, vulnerable but free. You must ask yourself, what am I still holding on to that no longer serves the person I'm becoming? Not to judge, not to punish, but to liberate. Maybe it's a belief that you aren't ready. Maybe it's a habit that numbs your potential. Maybe it's a person who drains your energy. Maybe it's a dream you outgrew but never admitted. Whatever it is, your next chapter depends on your willingness to let it fall away. There is nothing selfish about releasing what holds you back. There is nothing reckless about choosing growth over comfort. This is your life, your path, your evolution, and it requires a level of self-respect that says, "I deserve to become everything I am capable of becoming." As you listen now, you might feel a quiet recognition stirring inside you, the awareness that part of your life is ready to be shed. Don't fear that feeling. Don't run from it. Honor it. It is the early sign that something new is preparing to enter your life. And as you release, something beautiful happens. Clarity emerges. You begin to see what truly matters. You begin to understand who you truly are, and you begin to sense the direction your soul has been trying to point you toward all along. Because letting go is not the end of a story, it is the clearing of space for a better chapter to begin, and that is where we now turn our attention. In the next chapter we will explore what happens once space has been created, how to recognize the doorways opening in your life, how to step into new opportunities, and how to align yourself with the purpose that has been waiting beneath all the noise. You have done the hardest part, loosening your grip on what no longer belongs. Now it's time to step forward into what does. Let's continue the journey. There are moments in life when everything feels still, so still that it almost feels unreal, as if the world has paused, holding its breath, waiting for you to notice something you've overlooked for far too long. It might happen in the quiet of an early morning. It might happen in the middle of an ordinary day. But when it happens, you feel it deep in your spirit. A subtle pull, a gentle awakening, a whisper saying, "Look closer. There is something here for you." That moment is the doorway into clarity. Not the loud kind, not the dramatic kind, but the kind that arrives like a soft light, spreading through a dark room, revealing shapes that were always there but never fully seen. After the shedding, after the releasing, after letting go of what no longer belongs, you step into this new space, an inner landscape that feels unfamiliar yet strangely welcoming. This chapter is about learning to see what's been hidden beneath the noise, the fear, the distractions, and the old versions of yourself you've carried for too long. It's about discovering the quiet wisdom that rises only when the clutter falls away. The central idea of this chapter is simple, yet transformative. Clarity is not something you chase, it's something you allow. When you stop gripping the past and stop fearing the future, clarity begins to flow toward you naturally, like water finding its way to open ground. But clarity doesn't shout. It waits, patiently, gently, and most people never hear it because they are too busy drowning in the noise of their own overthinking. Clarity asks for something rare in today's world: inner stillness. Not perfection, not control, just stillness. Think about the moments when you've suddenly known exactly what to do. They never come when you're frantic or overwhelmed. They come when you finally pause, when your mind relaxes enough to hear the truth beneath the surface. That truth isn't new. It's been with you since the beginning, but it cannot be heard until you become quiet enough to listen. This is the hidden gift of letting go. Once the noise of your old life fades, the voice of your inner life becomes unmistakably clear. Clarity doesn't only tell you what to do next, it tells you who you are becoming. It reveals what aligns with your soul. It exposes what drains your energy, and it illuminates the choices that bring you closer to your purpose. But clarity isn't always comfortable. Sometimes it reveals truths you've avoided. Sometimes it shows you a direction that requires courage. Sometimes it tells you a relationship has run its course, a job has suppressed your potential, or a dream you once cherished is no longer yours to carry. Clarity is truth, and truth is freedom. But freedom always requires responsibility, the responsibility to honor what you now see. Most people don't lack clarity because they're incapable of finding it. They lack clarity because they're afraid of what it will require once they see it. So they stay busy, distracted, overcommitted, constantly moving, constantly talking, constantly filling their days with things that keep them from hearing the quiet message their life has been trying to deliver. But you are here now, listening, present, opening yourself to the deeper layers of your own becoming. And because of that, clarity is beginning to rise within you, subtle, steady, unmistakable. Let me give you a picture to hold on to. Imagine standing in a forest, just before dawn. For a moment, everything looks shadowed and uncertain, but as the first light spreads across the trees, the shapes become defined. Paths appear, details sharpen. Nothing new has arrived. What was hidden is simply illuminated. That is what clarity does within your life. It doesn't create new paths. It reveals the ones that were already waiting. The work of this chapter is to help you trust that light, because when clarity arrives, true clarity, it will not feel like a guess. It will feel like recognition. A quiet "I already knew this." A deep "I've felt this for years." A meaningful "this is right for me." Clarity feels like alignment, like pieces falling into place, like finally exhaling after holding your breath for too long. And once you see the truth, even if you're not ready to act on it yet, your life will begin to shift. You'll notice opportunities showing up that match your direction. You'll feel an inner nudge pulling you toward growth. You'll sense that something bigger than you is guiding you forward. This is not coincidence. This is alignment. And alignment begins the moment you stop forcing life to be something it isn't, and start accepting what life is quietly revealing to you. The next step on your journey will not come from pressure, but from presence, from listening to the whispers that have been waiting beneath all your fears. Clarity is the compass for your next chapter, but a compass is useless unless you're willing to look at it honestly and follow where it points. So ask yourself gently, without judgment, what is life trying to show me right now? What truth have I sensed but avoided? What direction feels light, peaceful, and honest? What direction feels heavy, forced, or draining? These questions aren't intellectual, they're intuitive. Your answers won't come from the mind alone. They will come from the deeper knowing inside you that has always guided you toward alignment, even when you didn't realize it. And now, as this chapter comes to an end, I want to leave you with this thought. Clarity is not a destination, it is a relationship. The more you honor it, the more it grows. The more you listen, the more it speaks. Because clarity is not found outside you, it is found within you. Beneath the noise, beneath the fear, beneath the old identity you've outgrown. And in the next chapter, we will explore what to do with that clarity, how to translate inner knowing into grounded, confident action that shapes the life you are meant to live. You've opened the door. Now it's time to step through. There comes a point in every journey when the moment you've been preparing for finally arrives. It doesn't announce itself with fanfare or fireworks. It arrives quietly, like the first rays of sunlight breaking through a stormy sky, illuminating everything in a way that makes you see the path clearly for the first time. That moment is now. The clarity you've discovered, the release you've practiced, the letting go you've embraced, all of it converges here. And what you do next will define the trajectory of everything that follows. This chapter is about action, not action born from fear, obligation, or habit, but action that is deliberate, aligned, and filled with purpose. You've released what no longer serves you. You've tuned into the quiet guidance of clarity, and now it's time to step fully into the life you've been called to live. The central idea is simple. Clarity without action is only potential. Action without clarity is only motion. Alignment requires both. Think of a ship anchored in a harbor. The anchor provides stability, keeps it safe from the storm, but the ship will never reach its destination if it stays moored. Similarly, clarity is your anchor. It provides insight, understanding, and direction. Action is the engine. Without movement, the anchor holds you in place, but your purpose remains unrealized. True progress requires both. Take a moment and imagine the life you've been envisioning. Not a vague dream, but the life you feel in your bones, the one that excites your heart and challenges your mind. Now ask yourself, are you actively moving toward it, or are you waiting for conditions to be perfect? Waiting is comfortable, but it is also a trap. Growth, transformation, and fulfillment require you to step forward even when the way is not fully visible. Action rooted in clarity is different from random effort. It is intentional. Each step is chosen because it aligns with your values, your purpose, and the vision you hold for yourself. It is measured, mindful, and persistent. And yes, it requires courage. The courage to act without guaranteed results. The courage to face uncertainty. The courage to risk failure, because you understand that inaction guarantees it anyway. Consider this: every meaningful accomplishment in life, every breakthrough, every transformation began with someone choosing action over comfort. They did not wait for perfect conditions. They did not wait for permission. They did not wait for clarity to feel complete. They acted, imperfectly but deliberately, and in doing so, they moved the needle of their life forward. Your actions do not have to be monumental. They only have to be consistent. Small, deliberate steps compounded over time lead to profound transformation. The difference between a life of potential and a life of fulfillment is often found in the discipline of consistent action, doing what is necessary today, even when it feels inconvenient or uncomfortable, because you understand that it shapes the person you are becoming. But action alone is not enough. It must be aligned with clarity. Acting without alignment is like driving a car without a map. You may be moving, but you are likely heading in the wrong direction. This is why self-reflection, continual reassessment, and an ongoing connection to your inner guidance are essential. Action guided by insight is unstoppable. It converts vision into reality, possibility into progress. There will be obstacles. There will be moments of doubt, fear, and fatigue. There will be days when the weight of the journey feels unbearable. But remember this: every challenge you encounter is not a signal to retreat. It is a test of commitment, a signal that you are moving in the right direction, and your persistence is shaping you into the person capable of handling even greater responsibility, opportunity, and impact. One of the most profound lessons you can internalize is this: progress is not linear, and action is not always visible in the moment. Just because you cannot see immediate results does not mean your efforts are wasted. Every step forward, no matter how small, compounds over time. Every choice aligned with your clarity strengthens the trajectory of your life. Every act of courage rewires your potential, expanding the possibilities you can create. Ask yourself now: are your daily actions aligned with your vision? Are they reflective of the clarity you have cultivated? Are they building the foundation for the life you desire? Or are they maintaining a life that no longer serves you? Honest answers are vital. Without this self-assessment, action risks becoming motion without meaning, and motion without meaning is exhausting, unfulfilling, and ultimately stagnant. Action rooted in alignment also demands responsibility. You cannot blame circumstances, others, or past mistakes for where you are. You must take ownership, full ownership. The life you create is the direct result of the decisions you make, the actions you take, and the consistency with which you pursue your purpose. This is both empowering and humbling. Empowering because it places the power squarely in your hand. Humbling because it reminds you that excuses have no home in the life of someone who truly wants to grow. As you move forward, it is also essential to embrace flexibility. Action aligned with clarity is not rigid. It is responsive. It is willing to adjust to new information, unexpected opportunities, and lessons learned along the way. It is persistent, but not stubborn. It is courageous, but not reckless. It listens as much as it moves. This balance between decisiveness and adaptability is what transforms ordinary effort into extraordinary progress. Finally, Remember the emotional dimension of aligned action. Action is not merely a mechanical process. It is a declaration to yourself and the world that you are committed to your growth, your vision, and your life. It generates momentum, fuels confidence, and reinforces the identity you are stepping into. Each action becomes a tangible manifestation of the clarity you have cultivated and the courage you have embraced. So, as this chapter concludes, take a deep breath and acknowledge this truth. The time for preparation is over. The time for reflection is ongoing, but now it must be joined by deliberate movement. The life you envision, the person you are becoming, the purpose that has been whispering to you, none of it will materialize without your commitment to aligned action. In the next chapter, we will tie everything together, reflecting on the journey you have undertaken, the clarity you have gained, the courage you have embraced, and the actions you have begun. We will explore how to sustain momentum, integrate these lessons into daily life, and step fully into a life defined by purpose, alignment, and progress. You have released the old. You have discovered clarity. Now you must act. Step forward. The path is waiting. There is a profound moment that comes after clarity, after courage, after deliberate action. It is quieter than triumph, subtler than success, yet it resonates deeper than any accomplishment you have ever known. It is the moment when you realize that you are no longer living by default. You are no longer drifting. You are no longer waiting for life to happen to you. You are fully awake, fully present, and fully responsible for the life you are creating. This chapter is about integration, the weaving together of all the lessons you have absorbed, the clarity you have uncovered, and the action you have begun. It is about stepping into the fullness of your potential, not as a distant goal, but as your lived reality. The central idea here is simple. Transformation is complete when alignment, action, and awareness become one. Think of it as the difference between learning the notes of a song and playing it with soul. You can memorize every detail, but until you embody it, until the music flows through you naturally, it is not fully alive. Your life works the same way. Knowledge, insight, and even action are meaningful only when they are integrated into your daily experience. When your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors align with your purpose, you become unstoppable, not because the world changes, but because you do. Integration begins with reflection. It requires honest assessment of your journey, the successes that have fueled you, the challenges that have shaped you, and the patterns that have both limited and defined you. Reflection is not a passive act. It is a deliberate practice of self-awareness, a gentle yet firm acknowledgement of where you are, where you've been, and where you are going. But reflection alone is not enough. Integration requires commitment to sustaining clarity, to living with intentionality, to acting consistently in alignment with your purpose. It is the conscious choice to no longer allow distraction, fear, or complacency to dictate your trajectory. It is the choice to honor your vision with daily, purposeful action. This is where many falter. It is easy to feel inspired in the moment, but sustaining transformation requires the courage to remain aligned even when the excitement fades. Life will challenge you. It will tempt you with comfort, familiarity, and the easy path. But integration is about persistence, about showing up even when the energy is low, when doubt creeps in, when the old habits whisper their familiar lies. This is the crucible where true transformation is forged. Consider your actions as threads in a tapestry. Each choice, each moment of focus, each aligned step weaves together into a coherent, beautiful picture, a life that is unmistakably yours. And the more consistent you are, the more vivid the tapestry becomes. The patterns that emerge are not random. They are the reflection of your intentions, values, and persistent effort. Integration also requires gratitude. Gratitude is not mere politeness or fleeting acknowledgement. It is a deep, conscious appreciation for the journey, the lessons, the struggles, the victories, and the quiet moments of insight. Gratitude grounds you in the present, reminds you of how far you have come, and fuels the energy necessary to continue forward. It is the silent engine of sustained growth. Another vital component of integration is self-trust. You have listened to your inner guidance, acted in alignment with your clarity, and navigated challenges with courage. Trust the process. Trust your intuition that every choice, every step, no matter how small, is moving you toward the life you are meant to live. Self-trust is the foundation upon which resilience and continued progress are built. Integration also demands compassion, both for yourself and for others. Transformation is rarely a straight line. There will be missteps, moments of doubt, and times when you feel you've fallen short. Respond with kindness, not judgment. Learn, adjust, and continue. Compassion ensures that your growth is sustainable. It nurtures the spirit even as you pursue your highest potential. And now, as you step into the culmination of this journey, remember that the life you are creating is not only about personal achievement, it is about influence, impact, and connection. When you align your actions with your purpose, you inspire others to do the same. Your transformation becomes a beacon, a living example of what is possible when clarity, courage, and consistent action converge. So what does this mean for you right now, in this moment? It means that your work is ongoing, but it is also deeply fulfilling. It means that the seeds you have planted through reflection, clarity, courage, and aligned action are beginning to bear fruit. It means that the life you envision is not a distant dream. It is already unfolding, moment by moment, through the choices you make and the presence you bring to each day. Integration is the final step that turns potential into reality, intention into embodiment, and vision into a lived experience. It is the moment when you can look back at the journey and recognize not just how far you have come, but who you have become. A person capable, empowered, aligned, and awake. As this chapter closes, take a deep breath and absorb the truth. You are not at the end of your journey. You are at a new beginning. The transformation you have achieved is real, and it is yours to sustain. The path forward is illuminated by clarity, guided by purpose, and energized by deliberate action. In the final chapter, we will draw everything together. We will reflect on the entire journey, solidify the principles that have brought you here, and leave you with a clear, actionable blueprint to continue stepping into your highest potential every single day. You have listened, you have reflected, you have acted. Now it is time to fully embody your transformation and move forward with confidence, purpose, and unwavering alignment. Chapter 12, the finale, living aligned, moving forward. Now we arrive at the culmination of this journey, not an end, but a beginning. A point where everything you have learned, every insight, every step of courage, and every act of deliberate action converges into one undeniable truth. Your life is yours to shape, moment by moment, choice by choice. Take a moment to reflect. Think back to where you started. Perhaps there was uncertainty, hesitation, or even fear. Perhaps life felt like a series of random events, pushing you in directions you didn't choose. You may have felt stuck, watching others move forward while you remained in the shadows of indecision. But now, you see clearly. You understand that without a plan, progress is impossible. Without clarity, action is blind. Without alignment, effort is wasted. This final chapter is about mastery, not mastery over others, but mastery over yourself. It is about taking everything you have discovered and integrating it into a way of living that is intentional, purposeful, and profoundly fulfilling. The first truth of mastery is this: consistency is the bridge between vision and reality. Daily, small actions, rooted in clarity and guided by purpose, create the compound momentum that transforms ordinary lives into extraordinary ones. One step repeated daily may seem insignificant, but over weeks, months, and years, it becomes unstoppable force. This is how progress is built. This is how dreams materialize. The second truth is courage. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the willingness to move forward despite it. Fear is natural. It signals that you are stepping into growth. Each time you act aligned with your purpose, you strengthen your courage, and courage becomes a habit. The more you practice it, the more resilient you become. Challenges may arise, obstacles will appear, but your capacity to navigate them grows with each step taken. The third truth is clarity. Keep revisiting it, refining it, deepening it. Your vision will evolve as you grow, and clarity must evolve with it. Life is dynamic, and your purpose is not fixed. It is alive, requiring attention, reflection, and recalibration. Without clarity, even the most dedicated effort can become misdirected. Clarity ensures that every action, every decision, every step is purposeful. The fourth truth is alignment. Alignment is the marriage of your values, your actions, and your vision. It is a life lived with integrity, where what you believe, what you do, and who you are in the world are in harmony. Misalignment leads to frustration, burnout, and a sense of emptiness. Alignment, on the other hand, generates peace, energy, and unstoppable momentum. When your inner world matches your outer actions, the world responds in kind. As you move forward, remember the role of reflection. Reflection is the compass that keeps you on course. Take time regularly to pause, assess, and adjust. Ask yourself, are my actions moving me closer to the life I desire? Am I honoring my values? Am I acting with clarity and purpose? Honest answers will guide your growth, sharpen your focus, and prevent drift. Gratitude must also become your companion. Celebrate the small victories, the subtle shifts, the moments when courage triumphed over hesitation. Gratitude grounds you in the present, reminds you of the journey you have undertaken, and amplifies the joy in every accomplishment. It transforms even the hardest lessons into fuel for progress. Finally, embrace responsibility. Your life is the result of your choices, and it is yours to shape. The power you hold is immense, because unlike circumstance or opinion, it cannot be taken away. Each decision, each action, is a vote for the person you are becoming and the life you are creating. Own it fully. You are no longer drifting. You are no longer waiting. You are now awake to possibility, empowered by clarity, fortified by courage, and energized by consistent action. The lessons of this audiobook are not theoretical. They are a roadmap. They are meant to be lived. And so, as you step beyond this moment, carry these principles with you: clarity, courage, action, alignment, reflection, consistency, and gratitude. Let them guide every decision, every relationship, and every pursuit. Let them shape your daily habits and the long-term trajectory of your life. Progress is no longer accidental. Growth is no longer elusive. Your potential is no longer locked in possibility. You are aligned. You are acting. You are living the life you were meant to create. Take a deep breath and feel it. The weight of indecision is gone. The fog of confusion has lifted. You are present, powerful, and poised to move forward with intention. The journey does not end here. It expands. Each day is an opportunity to act with purpose, to embody your vision, and to create a life of impact and fulfillment. Remember this: no plan, no progress, but with clarity, courage, and aligned action, progress becomes inevitable. Step into your life fully. Step into your purpose boldly. Step forward with unwavering commitment. The path is yours. The momentum is yours, and the life you have envisioned is waiting, ready to be lived. This is your moment. This is your time. Move forward, aligned, empowered, and unstoppable. The journey continues, but you are now fully equipped to walk it with intention, clarity, and courage. The life you desire is not a distant dream. It is your reality, unfolding with every conscious, purposeful step you take. And so, rise, move, create, live. Your progress begins now.